Should be topic number 5. Is abortion an African thing? This came with a link. Let's see what the link is talking about. Is a short.
Amen to this.
Culturally, most of the African communities actually believe, by tradition, by their cultural standards, that abortion is a direct attack on human life. So I'm sorry. So for anybody to be able to convince any woman in Africa that abortion is actually a good thing and can be a good thing, you first of all have to tell her that what her parents and her grandparents and her ancestors thought her what is actually wrong. You're gonna have to tell her that they have always been wrong in their thinking, and that, madam, is colonization.
Amen to this.
Culturally, most of the African communities actually believe, by tradition, by their cultural standards, that abortion is a direct attack on human life. So I'm sorry. So for anybody to be able to convince any woman in Africa that abortion is actually a good thing and can be a good thing, you first of all have to tell her that what her parents and her grandparents and her ancestors thought her what is actually wrong. You're gonna have to tell her that they have always been wrong in their thinking, and that, madam, is colonization.
All right, I like to play those videos, especially shorts. I like to play those twice. Make sure everyone gets the idea. Lero, what says you is abortion an African thing after watching that video?
No, abortion.
Larry, you cut out there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, no, abortion is not African. It's never been African, like the lady mentioned, culturally, traditionally, Africans had a very deep connection with marriage and procreation being one and the same. Now, that's something in Western society that we see the complete opposite of, You don't see marriage, you just procreation, kind of recklessly at that. And then that gives rises to just having all these abortions and whatnot. Now, I will say this first off: abortion is healthcare. If a woman has a miscarriage, right, when she goes to the hospital, the procedure they perform is the same as they would do on a live fetus that they were trying to terminate and whatnot. So I think so I'm not, while me personally, I do not support abortion. I'm not for it at all. I do understand the healthcare needs for the procedure. I'll say that. But no, traditionally, Africans had a tight connection with procreation and marriage, the value of children and of life, and how they saw, their offspring as kind of reincarnations of their ancestors. And, just the value of children was placed differently. That and it's kind of unfortunate, because I think some of that value needs to be reinstilled in us, in how important our children were, and the duty and the diligence that we all had towards our children. So no, um, African women should not. I would hope not. And that maybe that feminist line of thinking will kind of lead folks into falling into that trap. But no, we don't need abortion. You need to just be like responsible with your womb. You shouldn't need to go and traumatize your body, because that's what it is, traumatizing your body at the clinic, due to your just sexual irresponsibility. People talk about, oh, well, what if a woman's raped and things like that. But yeah, those are like decimal percentile of the cases that are seen for abortion. Now, a lot of them are health related, but even that is kind of a um, it's not as black and white as people like to make it seem, as what is a health related abortion and what is not. Um, no, like my full stance is that no, abortion is not African. We need to value our lives. We need to value our wombs, and be thinking carefully of those who we procreate with. I know you don't want to be a single mom. I know they tell you, oh, poor people shouldn't have children. I don't follow that line of thinking. I think it's eugenics, like full stop. Um, So I just, yeah, no to the abortion for me.
All right, thank you for that, Lero. Let's hear from Real Black Gentleman. What say you?
Yeah, I don't think abortion. I mean, of course, it's not an African thing. It's like the whole idea that you know what I'm saying. This whole what is the I mean all the chemicals, the procedures. Now, I will say this: I've heard, and again, I'm not trying to give credence to any of this shit. I'm aware that and again, I don't know how. It's like this is the thing. Like, I don't know if in Black Africa, whether or not we're talking about medical care and medical, that there were not any kind of contraceptives, or even I won't say contraceptives, but any kind of birth control measures that were indigenous. I'm not saying that African people cut out babies, but I'm saying that you can come up with you can come up with things that are natural, that do things. And the idea that African peoples didn't develop some kind of how would I say it, miscarriage inducing things, I don't know how historically accurate that would be. I've heard of cases. I don't know how I don't think this was like I don't know how recent this is. I mean, I don't know how late it was. It's probably something in this century where, and if that's the case, that can be influenced by ideas about, the idea of it passing through other people's, about, whether or not. I wish I had the source on this. I saw this on, I don't want to major in any minors saying that I don't think that it's good. I'm actually very, 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 very anti-abortion. I just want to make sure that I see things in the proper light. And I don't think that anything like that would be widespread, or how would I say it, or common. I don't think that because I'll go against Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, for days. I can definitely do that. I'm not a woman. Seeing the world that we're in, Lord knows, like, you know what I'm saying. Like, I cannot encourage in any way a woman ending her pregnancy. That's like at that point, like, a lot of gates have already failed. Like, you should have already understood how reproduction works, how you yourself was the product of your father and your mother, and those hot minutes. You know what I'm saying? It's like we cannot in any way encourage abortion and say it in a public way. Abortion, if again, the rare instances, you know what I'm saying, like, incest, rape. I mean, what is it? You know what I'm saying? Like a tubal birth, where the baby starts to implant into the fallopian tube, and it's just that the pregnancy itself won't. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that these things should naturally, if in ideal situations, these things are discovered early enough. However, again, the idea that what we call abortion, not contraceptives, but actual, like, terminating of the fetus, happens 3, 4, 5 months into the pregnancy, where the woman, I ostensibly would know or should be aware that there's a change in that, there's conception of life inside of her, then goes to then kill the baby. I mean, the only way to stop abortion is to ensure the beginnings of that whole setup, which is making sure that a man and a woman have a sense of indefinite bounty and prosperity, that at least that they feel that way, to that at least that when they do conjugate and the woman conceives, that there's going to be no question that everything's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? This is the natural part of life. Everyone will be there along her way to make sure that she's healthy and that this baby is delivered healthy. That's the whole idea. But as soon as you start to imply abortion just being a natural part of, you know, that whole, you know, disrupted cycle, it's all bad. I mean, oh God. I mean, she's right where, you know what I'm saying, the lady saying that when you encourage abortion, you're saying that everything that your parents and grandparents did that they thought was wrong, and then that's colonialization. Abortion is an awful thing. I mean, it really truly is. I mean, it's murder. I mean, I mean, I don't like the idea that a woman could, I mean, because fertility is not an easy thing. It's not as easy. It's not just like, bust one and then 9 months later, you know what I'm saying, a baby comes out the oven. I mean, there's fertility, there's cycles, there's all kinds of things. A baby, once you conceive a baby, unless it's really like, you know what I'm saying, like, look, if you got rape, I mean, you know what I'm saying, but again, we really want to make sure that this, you know what I'm saying, if this is just, you wasn't, look, sex means a finality of conception. You know what I'm saying? Like, once you're born, you're born. Like, once you're conceived, and like anything that would take away from that is like, is you were once in that. Every one of us was once a germ in our mother's womb, and you know what I'm saying. The saying goes, mother's womb is one of the most dangerous places for a black person because of the in America, because of the prevalence of abortion. Abortion is of the devil. I'm gonna yield the mic.
All right, let's hear from Carl next. Carl, what say you?
Well, I'm a little confused by the question. Is abortion an African thing? I mean, abortion is a medical procedure. Would appendicitis be an African thing? Would extraction of your gallbladder be an African thing? I mean, it's a medical procedure, so I don't think there's any particular Africanness to it. I will say that we have to be careful because, the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was a eugenicist. She was a white supremacist, and she was concerned about the population of Black people exceeding that of Europeans in America. So that's one thing about that. But for me, for the most part, I agree with abortion. I believe it's a woman has a right to choose, and I think that should be up to her. I don't feel that up to a certain point, once you've had a certain trimester, then once it's developed into a fetus, then we have an issue. But I'm not religious. I'm not no Catholic or nothing like that. I don't believe in life begins at conception. I think that's not scientifically proven. So I think that, if a woman makes that decision, that should be her decision to make, and it should be done healthy. Because here's the reality: if a woman don't want to have a baby, she's going to have an abortion, legal or not. So people have been having abortions forever. It hasn't been done medically. It hasn't been done safely. So many women die. But so the question is not whether or not a woman is going to have an abortion. Is she going to have an abortion safely, or is she going to have an abortion unsafely? This should be the question. But no, I don't think it's an African thing. But I think that women do have the right to choose whether or not they want to bring a child to term or not. And there's a lot of, situations behind that. It could be she doesn't have support from the father. It's not a safe environment. She could just not be ready for a child. I'm not saying people should be reckless with their wombs, which is why there's so many forms of birth control. There's so many options to use before you get to that point. But if that's the choice she wants to make, that's between her and her doctor. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Appreciate it, Carl. I see D Webs out in the chat. He says, only on topic 5, burn the late night oil, I see. Now we're going to shut it down at 2 a.m. like we usually do. But yeah, we had some real interesting conversations tonight. We have to bring some of those back. Webb says they're also putting a warning on the live now about offensive material. YouTube is ridiculous. So yeah, you guys will notice that I got a notification on my phone during the first prompt about they was going to do whatever, put a warning up, this, that, and the other. That's because a lot of that's happening now. Like every day now, I'm getting these emails from YouTube about which video is not monetized, demonetized, which has a certain label put on it, like every day. That's because I qualify for their program, but I haven't done the paperwork because I'm kind of skeptical of it. On one hand, I was curious to see if they would allow this page to get monetized, but surprisingly, they did, and they sent me the stuff to join the ad program, but I just haven't yet. I just haven't yet. So yeah, like Buana said in the private chat, it could be a good thing. Might pique people's interest, etc. But yeah, you guys who came in late, go back to the beginning and check out those first two prompts, man. We had a real good conversation during those first two prompts. I think all the conversations were good anyway. So we just heard from Real Black Gentleman. We heard from Lero. Before that, we heard from Carl just now. Let's hear from Tanzan. Tanzan, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the lady. I don't think that we had a tradition of or even the practice. I think they may have been reproductive health and so on, but no, I don't think that. I have never heard of it, of any practice of killing babies or anything. So yeah, I agree with her. Tezi might say it's something different, but yeah, I think the simple answer is a no.
All right. Since you mentioned Tezzy, let's go to Tezzy next. Tezzy, what say you?
Yeah, I okay. To be honest, yeah, Tanzan was right that I will say that abortion is an African thing. I agree with that question. It is an African thing. Actually, to put it here, the it started with the which tribe is this? The Chaga of Tanzania.
What's the machine you have on in the background?
Oh, is there vibration?
Yeah, vibration. What's the machine you got going on in the background?
Oh, okay. I can't help it by now, but I hope you can still be heard. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah. Continue.
Okay. So the Chaga of Tanzania, their women were not expected to give birth after their daughters were married. So every child that they had was aborted after their daughter was married. That was the Chaga tribe in Tanzania. We also have the Baganda princesses in Uganda. They were not expected to marry, as this would cause tension between the patrilineal and matrilineal succession line, leading to widespread abortion. Also, the Ashanti women of Ghana, they used to abort if they had premarital sex or adulterous affairs. So definitely, you can even look at the Maasai women who used to abort if the father was sick or was old, the child was they used to abort the children. So this was a practice that was well known in African culture. So it is an African thing. Abortion was happening way before the Mzungu came to Africa. So yeah, to answer the question, it was an African thing.
That's good information, Tezzy. I appreciate that, for real. I appreciate that. Let's have him gas them up. What say you, Gas?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep it brief. I agree with the sister. Unfortunately, I don't know. I think that tsunami is going to come crashing down of people who want to copy the West. So, yeah.
All right, Gas did keep it brief. I mean, we got till 2, so you guys could expand if you want. Buana, what say you to this?
Yeah, so let me say that since I'll be the bad guy tonight. So if you start your premise on the sanctity of life, this whole idea, this notion of sanctity of life, of course abortion is gonna look like an evil thing. And maybe the Africans didn't have as a cultural practice abortion. Maybe not. I'm sure that they had the uh preventing having children, in terms of, precautions, so a woman would be able to have a child. And anyone who would want to look into that, it's easy read Ivan van Sertima, Africans in Science, you know. So I'm sure, and you'll find the information there. But I'm sure that they have had preventative measures in terms of childbirth, and in terms of women having just having children, there are some complexities involved. There are some complexities involved that should be considered as well. Because I don't believe where there was a choice between the mother or the child, every man who was in a position of authority decided to bear the child and let the woman die. Because there are questions that come in terms of, well, if this child is born, this woman is going to die. I don't believe that every African man decided to just give birth to the child in turn, or rather than just let the woman. I don't believe that happened. I believe that happened. Not uh, unanimously. I don't believe that happened. And also too, you know, when we said it's not an African thing, maybe it's conditionally. Maybe on a continent, no. But if they was in a particular position after the child was born, we have many cases of women throwing their children on slave ships in the ocean. Not only they kill the children, they kill themselves as well. So they may not have aborted the child from being born, but they certainly allowed the child to die in the ocean because they was under a condition of oppression, major oppression, and they decided it was better to die rather than having a child live that existence. And also, let me also say this is an important thing too, because we coming from the standpoint of death being a bad thing. Death is not in a mindset of, well, in my mindset, death is not always a bad thing. If I am supposed to live among my ancestors, you know what I mean. I don't consider death as always a bad thing. You know what I mean? So I don't think that all African people consider death as a bad thing. I think that to start from that premise is a fault, is really faulty. And also, let me include into this mix that there are cases and instances where you have people engaging in a nefarious activity in terms of, because you can't say rape that never existed in Africa, because I'm sure it did, and the woman didn't decide to bear that child. So what happens to that child? And also incest existed. I'm sure that they did on the continent as well. Let's play like that don't exist. I feel like sometimes we romanticize what happened in terms of humanity, and that's just not the case. And when a woman decides, I don't want to bear this child. This child is an abomination. You know what I mean? So I think that would have occurred as well. The when we look at this scenario, we look in terms of a healthy woman in a healthy situation with her partner, mate, wife, husband, or whatever, and her deciding not to have the child. But there are other complexities that come in the picture. So this blanket prompt statement that it becomes blurry because there are factors that should be considered in terms of, is this a so-called African thing? Because I'm sure many women decided not to give birth to a child when you put these complexities in the mix, and they were African women. So I don't know. I think that to say that there was a whole case of bunch of African women deciding to use this as a culture thing, maybe not. But it's in terms of, did African women decide in various different cases that existed throughout the continent, because there's millions of different stories. So did African women decide not to bear a child that, because of her situation that she was in, it would have been better not to give birth to that child? Sure, I'm sure it existed. I am sure, because that's how humanity is set. And even after the birth of that child, were there situations where a woman decided to, what is it, matricide? I forget the name of it, but where a woman decides to take that baby out of this existence. Sure, I'm sure it existed. I am certain it existed because we have cases that are on slave ships. But I just want to um to look at a different view and a different perspective because based on the conditions, because African women have been in serious different situations throughout the diaspora and in terms of even history that exists that would cause them to want to commit these particular acts. And I wouldn't want to demonize someone because I wasn't in that position as well. And if I was in that position, hell, maybe I would have done the same thing. Now I'm not a woman, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I don't want to consider it to be evil. And death is perceived differently in African culture as opposed to the European culture. But I wanted just to throw that in the mix. I'll stop there.
I appreciate that. Did I get Tanzan on this one? I think I did, right? I got Lero. All right, so that leaves us with Erzuliism. Erzuli, what say you?
I want to start by saying that anybody who says the woman's choice to 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 kill the baby or not, that's ridiculous. That makes no sense because the woman doesn't get herself pregnant. The woman is the carrier of the life. She's not the creator of the life. So, but hey, the brother said, I believe that African people had you could go take some herbs and to keep the egg from mixing with the sperm. Of course, they probably had birth control, but so abortion is not birth control in the sense of keeping from pregnancy from happening. Abortion, the eggs already made contact with the sperm. And for the brother that said that it's not scientifically proven, it is scientifically proven that it's a live thing. Whether you want to say the heart beats us in like 6 weeks or 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, I forget what it is. But anyway, if this lady is speaking at the United Nations or wherever she's speaking, I'm guessing that she knows what she's talking about more than y'all on here that's talking about abortion was Africans was doing everywhere and everywhere. It's like over 40 million abortion that happened in America. If a couple of times some people had an abortion here and there, that doesn't mean that it was a thing in Africa. I'm not saying that in Africa or in the Caribbean or whatever, some part maybe they did when they had sex and then they went, yo, let me go drink this tea real quick, like the 72-hour pill or whatever. I'm not saying they didn't have that, but for people to talk about abortion was in Africa, this and that, so like that makes no sense. So to say even what that lady is talking about is the same thing what we're talking about in the previous video. This is genocide. This is a covert genocide. Talking about abortion is it's the woman's right. What? So if abortion is woman could do it, so can I opt out of paying child support? Can I opt out of being the father? If the woman could do whatever she wants with the baby, then I should be able to do whatever I want. I don't want to be his father, his father, because that makes no sense. So I don't understand how people be like, if we Gas said something that's important. He said pre-colonialism, pre all of this, the whole thing that we talk about that prostitution is the old profession. Gas said this shit didn't happen. We're there. So if a girl got pregnant, somebody got pregnant, what are y'all talking about? Oh, the baby couldn't survive. They had food there. So we talk about all of this, we're against this, but we so love the technology of our oppressor. That's what I have to say about that.
I like what D Webb says here in the chat. He says in Colorado, you can have an abortion into the 9th month You gotta admit that's some sick shit. I agree with that. He says 6 states have 0-term restrictions where you can abort up until the baby comes out the womb. Wow, wow, that's wild. Someone's mic is open. Who's that? That Tezzy? Go
Yeah,
ahead,
it's
Tezzy.
me. I'm sorry. Yeah, but okay. I think we need to accept that about Africans also. Africa. I've just given you the list of all the African tribes that used to perform abortions for all various reasons. In fact, the African tribes used to do way worse things than abortion. But I'm not going to go into that. But when it talks about abortion, I think people need to understand that it's a very complex issue. It's not just the way, because it's happening. It's still happening, whether it's legal or illegal. It's still happening, and they were even in countries like, people don't understand. In Africa, we had this stream actually 7 months ago. We had this type of we talked about this insulination, and it was like we talked for a whole 8 hours. We talked about just abortion in Africa, and people don't understand how much teenage pregnancy happen in Africa. Africa probably has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancies in the world. Before, like, there are some populations in Africa, I don't know if it's in the Congo, or where like 20% of teenage women, girls, have pregnancies, you know. And so a huge chunk of those people, they actually do have these abortions, but they have these what is it, street abortions, or these unsanitary abortions. And so there is a case for legalizing it, that so that these ladies that are that are having, that have to do it, because even in Tanzania, there used to be a law. I don't know if it has been repealed, but there used to be a law that if you got pregnant as a teenager, you can't go to school. That now your educational life is over. So when you put women or young girls in such a position where they have to choose their whole life or keeping the kid, a lot of those women are going to opt for an illegal abortion. So there are so many cases in which girls do go for abortion, and they're not, and they are legitimate. We need to understand. So it's not just a black and white issue; it's a very complex issue. So there are the women who are pushing for abortion, because she doesn't. This girl in the
It's
video,
not a
she doesn't
complex issue.
represent all women.
It's not a complex issue. You don't understand what does it mean when you kill a baby. You don't understand what you do. You don't understand.
I know,
No, you don't.
I
No, you
know it's
don't. You're
bad.
just
Okay,
saying.
I'm not pro-abortion. I'm anti-abortion, but I also have to appreciate the situations that lead women to have abortions.
Appreciate. What is? Do you know what the word appreciate means?
Yeah. I know the word appreciate me. I know what it
No,
means.
I gotta give it to Tezzy. I gotta give it to Tezzy. He used an interesting word, appreciate. But so something Tezzy mentioned before that is true. I could remember there was a lot of, like, in my high school years, the years I was finishing up high school, we were like what, 13, 14, 15, 14, 15, 16, right? When you when you graduate from high school. And I remember a lot of them gals was getting pregnant, or as we say, big up, right? Was getting big up back in the day. And those back alley abortions that Tezzy mentioned, like, that shit was happening. Like, folks was going and getting some aunt or someone with a clothes hanger, right, and making a hook out of a clothes hanger and pulling fetuses out of people. Like, that was happening. People boiling castor oil leaf and all that kind of stuff to abort babies as teenage pregnancies. So that's a problem that we got to be honest about it. We got to address that too. I don't know if killing babies is the way to address it, but it was a thing. And I can see where people will say, well, thank God there was abortions, because I would have been 14, right, having a baby with a dude who was 15 or 13 or some shit, and ain't know nothing about nothing. So I can see why people would think that, but I think it's because we don't look at what it really is. We kind of sugarcoat it as just deleting a fetus, but it's actually killing a child. It's killing a.
But Koku, remember Tan was talking about building the society or building a so-called system on scarcity and building a system on surplus. So, many African societies, as the woman was saying, why would you get an abortion when, you don't, in the 1500s in Africa, 1300s, if you're on the western coast of, if you're on the coastal region of Guinea or Mali, when you have your baby, is there a daycare center you got to pay for? Do you got to go to children's place and get them matching booty shoes and because Letitia got her baby in the fancy baby daycare, you got to put your baby in the fancy baby daycare in the village, and your baby got to have the newest Air Machungus, because those are the shoes that all the babies in the village wear. So we've created a society where, I'll give an example, right? Like, I've seen people with children that they spend all this money with toys and stuff, and I'll play with their child. I kid you not, with an old the bounty, the napkin thing. I'll get that some markers and some glue, and me and that child will have way more fun than any of those stupid, $400 fancy specialty toys. And so that's the system. So culturally speaking, you lived in a society where you wouldn't be hard pressed. Your 16-year-old girl saw her puberty and she's ready to be married to the 25-year-old guy who has his phone. Yeah, go ahead, start your life, because, and children walked around naked in Africa, as they still do, right? So I just think we're not looking at that. We're just and you said something earlier about trying your best to avoid certain things. We can, other than like extreme abject poverty. And what's funny, even those people in those situations, particularly in Africa, they're not even looking to abort their children. But if you cut out the Netflix and you go shopping at Costco and you save your money, children can be more affordable. If you cut the nonsense and just focus on the things that you need, food, clothing, shelter, and you guys deal with each other. But it's hard to tell us that.
And again, like Gaz just said, all the thing telling a girl, oh, you have to go to school and don't get pregnant. When did that come? To go learn the European way of life?
I think that all of us, everyone on this panel, and I understand the argument, because the brothers, I'm starting with the sanctity of life argument, but all of us know people now who is really just a human scumbag. You know what I mean? For real, they really shouldn't exist. They would be better, as dust growing fruit. And this might sound evil and bad, whatever, but I don't give a shit. But I just think that all of us know individuals out there in our neighborhoods or wherever you're from, who are just no good to humanity, and they shouldn't friggin' exist. And it would have been better if their mother would have aborted them, bust them, and just wipe them on a towel and flush them down the toilet. Yeah, this is reality, man. And I ain't trying to color code bullshit, man. I understand the sanctity of life argument, but I just ain't buying it. I'm sorry.
Why not mother swallow the baby instead of aborting them? You hear what I'm saying? Like that's a much better way for so-called abortion, But I don't know. I think this gets very slippery, right? And this is where Minority Report becomes, there's an old African saying, I don't know if they say in the Caribbean, who knows tomorrow? You get what I'm saying? Nobody knows tomorrow, and so a person under these conditions might be a degenerate, but under different conditions might thrive.
Hey, Gas, the probability is high. I go for probability is high.
That is not true, because there's a bunch of kids who are born in abject poverty in the Caribbean who never turn out to be mass murderers. It seems a lot of the time those serial killers that we see, they are people who got money, people who are not this. So is it the baby is not a mass murderer by itself. or the child. The child is mass murdered because what the environment acts upon it.
And then where do you draw the line? Because I mean, you know, Obama got to go then for what he pulled in Libya, right? You know, all these other people.
He would be the first.
Where do you draw the
Him, George Bush. What's the name? Donald Trump. All of them gotta go. All of them gotta go. She should have again bust down the leg and flush down the freaking toilet.
Then you turned into the movie Minority Report. You ever saw that movie?
What's the actor name again?
With Tom Cruise, Minority Report?
Yeah, a long time. That's an old movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old movie, but that's what we end up. We end up in a world like that. It's a very scary world to live in.
I'm just
go ahead, Azuli. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that with all of this we're talking, the African American population is at 12 or 13.2% from 1970. They say black women, whether by themselves or with the accomplice of the men, killed over 40 million babies. So at the end of the day, even if the Africans were doing it, even if it doesn't mean it's right. And all they're doing it for the reason, oh, I had to go to school or I had to do this. So that means you impeded a woman from being a mother. Whatever pressure that society put that on your young lady, or you belong to this type of women, you shouldn't have baby. What the F is that?
Yeah, I mean, think about it,
Ursula, you see these mothers out here, man. You do, hey, bro. Ursula, you probably had a great mom, and I ain't taking that away. You probably had a good mom, but some of these so-called quote unquote mothers around here, they should not be mothers.
But these mothers by themselves. These mothers were not created by themselves. They were created in a sick society. You want to throw the blame only on the women. It's not only on the women, the society.
Think about it, Juana. Imagine if out of those 40 million, right? Let's just say 50 of them would have made lasting impacts for black people in the world. So you can imagine the ancestors are like, all right, cool. You're going to come back, and you're going to do this. And you know, you're going to come through this guy's testicles and run into her vagina, and you all ready to go, and you get in there. And then, you know, some Mzungu technology aborts you and use your fetal cells to power their technology. Now the ancestors got to sit down there and go back to the drawing board and send somebody else again. You know, so this abortion thing on an occult level really is holding us back, in my opinion.
You know how many doctors, engineers, magicians, writers, warriors. You know how many that are lost, and 40 million? And that's only in America.
Well, they're not
mass murderers too.
Why do you keep saying mass murder, bro?
Because when you say these things, and I understand because you taking my position, you're an optimist. You're saying that these people are going to be great writers and thinkers, and that's well and good. But how many of them are also going to be dirtbag, scumbag, degenerates?
But
do you Malcolm X? Wait, hold on. Do you include? Wait, but does he include Malcolm X into that? Do we abort Malcolm X, Buana?
Here we go with the Malcolm X argument.
No, I'm asking.
Of course, Malcolm X went through the scumbaggery, and he.
No. But we can't have
an exception. You trying to make the real exception.
You know how many of my friends that was doing wrong and turned out to be better human beings than most of these doctors, these so-called politicians? What are you talking about? A baby's not born evil. The system turned them into murderers, or whatever happens to them.
I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
We could say the system. We could say the system all you want, but there are parents or so-called parents with a quote unquote who also influence the child, and what we have seen so far is the inability of the parents to produce productive
but that's a failure of you. You're part of that failure, because in African societies, parents don't exist. There is no nuclear family. Parents exist within the confines of the community. And so, you know, if the black community has derelicts, you're also to blame, Buana.
Well, I can take the blame. I have no problem with that. Even though I'm not a dad, I can take the blame of that. What I can do for people in my community and society. There's a guy I just talked to the other day. He's supposed to spend two years in jail, and I try to be encouraging as much as I can because I understand he coming from a situation that's not necessarily conducive. Not this man walks around the street and he's a vagrant. What is his purpose in life? I wish he had better. I try to give him money and do for him, give him jobs or whatever. But what do you do to people? Man, I think that the conversation is a little bit complicated, and I understand what your brothers are saying. There is a degree of sanctity in life and certain terms, whatever. But I also believe that there's some scumbaggery that goes on, and there are some people that should not exist. I don't
So
start with that
what
religious that religious premise. I
I
don't
agree
start
with
there.
you.
I
So,
don't.
so I agree with you. So then, with that said, then I'm fine with Leopold and what he did in the Congo because some of them people had to go. They was down.
Come on, gas man. Come on, bro. I know
Why?
it's 2 o'clock in
Why
the
is it
morning,
come
but
on,
come
bro?
on,
Now?
bro.
Why is it come on, bro?
Come
Now?
on, bro.
Why is it
Come.
come
Why
on,
He
you
has
bro?
a
Now?
starting
point
there,
though.
bro? Come on, man.
He has a point
Come
though,
on.
Buana.
Why is it
Come
come on,
on,
bro?
man.
Now? You know how many what's his name? The guy you were talking about that you said should have been killed. What is it? What's his name? The one that killed Patrice Lumumba.
Mobutu.
You know how many more
No,
Mobutu could have been in there?
no, but the reason why Leopold murdered these people wasn't because he didn't think that their life had value. It's because they didn't bring in enough gold to support his empire. That's a little bit different than what we talk about right now.
What do
Come
you
on,
mean?
man.
It's the same
Come
thing.
on, man.
If you kill somebody because they didn't bring you materialistic stuff, that means they don't have value. What are we talking about?
Can I
By the
just
way, I just want to
interject
say,
real
I hope,
quick?
Lara, 1 sec. I hope I didn't miss Carl on this prompt. Carl, if I did,
No,
it wasn't intentional.
Carl spoke. I think he's
Oh,
doing
okay,
it.
good. All right, Lero, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that like it's like the whole abortion convo. It really like approaches eugenics at some point because it's like you can't determine what anybody's outcome is going to be in life because of their parental setup, their family situation. It's the same thing as telling people, oh, poor people shouldn't have children, because their kids are just going to go up and live miserably. There's people who are doing fine. You know what I mean? I know people in foster care. They're doing very well for themselves now. There's people who grow up in great situations, and they turn out to be rapists and murderers and killers, you know what I mean? And they had all the family and love in the world. So I don't think you can ever determine that. And life is life. And people, and a life should have the right to see to whatever outcome that may be, whether it be right or wrong. Some people shouldn't be here, but they need to prove why they shouldn't be here first before we can even come to that conclusion. I think too, you also have to think about abortions in American society. One, they're so rampant. Like 1 in 4 women, like under the age of 45, have had an abortion. Like, that's nuts. At least one. You know what I mean? At least one abortion. And you got to think too, there's no pressure of I can't go to school and have a kid at the same time. No, the state will literally take care of you. You know what I mean? The state literally wants you to come. You have your kids. You don't got to worry about your father being in the picture. You can get welfare. You know what I mean? You have all these options to have your children. And also, too, abortions are no longer being considered as they don't consider factors of like, oh, yeah, people get raped and women have health issues or maybe issues with like the fetus. The fetus could have like a low quality of life due to some birth defects, mutations or whatever. No, like it's literally women saying, I don't want to have this baby. I'm going to kill it. And that's what it is. The vast majority of abortions are performed for that reason. And if that's not perverted, if that's not sick, if that's not just straight genocidal, then I mean, I really don't know what is. I don't think there should be any excuses. Abortion is indeed murder. Now, you can have justifiable, quote unquote, reasons for that murder, but abortion is full out murder. And
You're just a communist, Lero.
it's taking away the the opportunity of life from that fetus, which we all were. But that's all I got to say.
You're just a liberal
They
communist. And you're
they
bad for
they
the
they
black community.
they, they grow up. They grow up to be one. Just if they grow up in these situations, they grow up to be just wonderful people. what about El Chapo and his and the people who join his cartel? They're not going to be contributive members of the society. Should we get rid of them?
Yeah. Actually, I like to also disagree with my sister here who just spoke that majority of abortions are not actually women just choosing to abort. There's this study that actually did investigate this, and and they came up with the conclusion that majority of abortions would be avoided if women in their lives felt safe to have the baby. Meaning that if there was no if the society was okay with her having that baby, and her close family and the father of the baby, all those are the three main determinants whether a woman will abort or not: society, her close family, and the father of the baby. Those are the three.
So it's
But
not an
that's not
African
safety
thing.
or health, you know.
So then it's not African because the father, the safety, all those things were provided for in African societies.
Okay. No, 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 no. In Africans, especially conservative societies, where it depends on what type.
No,
If
no,
you have
no,
a
Tezzy,
baby,
Tezzy.
if you
I'm
have a
not talking
baby,
modern.
yeah.
I'm not talking the modern day mental retard Africans on the continent today. No disrespect to you, because I can't stand. I'm amongst them, right? But I'm talking about the pre-colonial African societies where a woman, like I always say, the European tells us prostitution, and you guys should research infanticide in industrial Europe, right? These people are sick people. They were throwing their babies. Brenda has a baby should really be Gertrude has a baby. This is what they did. This is their game. They've been throwing babies in trash cans since the industrial time. But what I'm saying, Tezzy, is that the conditions you described of a society that kept the women safe, there was abundance. No woman would be out to pasture starving, where she had to suck a penis for a grape or something like that. There would be no need for a woman to have an abortion in a pre-colonial African society. Can you agree to that?
Yeah, yeah. But you see, in pre-colonial African society, there were other conditions. There were the society. There were other society conditions for abortion. I actually even read them right now. Like if in the Ashanti tribe, where if the woman had a baby and she is not yet married, that baby will be aborted. And it's also seen in the Maasai, where if the woman had a baby and the father of the baby is too old or sick, the woman will go and have an abortion. Even in the Baganda kingdom, if you have a baby and the baby is not
Okay,
of
but did that add up to 40 million babies being murdered?
okay, I don't know the numbers. Okay, probably not.
So
Probably
all
not.
right, then. So stop using that to say that Africans was doing it. If you lost 1,000, even if let's say it was 2,000 or 100, 1 million babies that got killed pre-colonialism, is that equal to 40 million? And I'm only talking about the American side. I don't know how many abortion people are having now in the continent or in the Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah, but you see, in the modern day, it's the society, it's the family, and it's the father of the baby. Those are the three things. It was actually been determined that if you sort those three things out, there will probably be much less
No,
abortions.
this lady's not talking about right now. This lady is warning us about what's happening, which probably is already there. The way you guys are talking, she's saying that the lady's talking about her ancestors, her great grandmother and her grandmother were not about abortion.
Tezzy, what he likes to do is he's very, very loose with his definitions. So, in order to play on the global stage, Tezzy's always going to find a way to stretch it. That round peg must fit in that square hole for Tezzy in the world of European definitions. So he's going to find one off example of perhaps a cultural phenomenon of, maybe the woman, they had certain things in their culture where she might not want to have a baby by a man who has sick genetics, and that is the one way to stretch to say, see, we had that too. And I don't know, I've dealt with these Africans my whole life, and I don't know, I got to still live with them, but it to me, it's hard to deal with them on the continent. And so, and I'm not dissing you, Tezzy. I'm not dissing you, but I'm just saying, I hope you understand that. I guess because my thinking is very diasporic. When I'm on the continent dealing with my Nigerians who think like you, it's like we're in the belly of the beast, trying to at least keep some sort of sanctity to what our ancestors had, and you guys back home are just like, that, who cares about that, man? We want to, and it's like, so we're just at different purposes. We're across purposes. We're trying to, do our best to maintain our sanity within the system, but still keep what our ancestors had. And you guys, they're like, screw what the ancestors had. Let's be world players. And so I don't know, but I'm glad everyone can see the dynamic. So this is just what it is that's at play.
I know you guys are not even understanding
I'm
what I'm trying to
curious.
say.
I'm curious. Hold on, Tezzy. Hold on, Tezzy. I'm curious because I listen to the Purist talk, I'm wondering how many African men, continental African men, go out to date single mothers in Africa because they believe that you should bear a child and not have abortion. And we know African women will
A
still
lot.
have sex regardless.
A lot.
So
I know a guy who
are
just
they
got
as a
married
culture?
now.
Let me ask Tezzy. Are they as a culture? Do they date single mothers? Because from the African men I've met, they want to mess or marry the girl without children, without children. So if she's an older woman, if she is an older woman and she don't have children, is you have a green light. But if she does have a child, I'm wondering if the parents are them going to be so accepting of this woman with a child who is not that man's child, or and they engage in that kind of practice where they date mothers with children. I'm wondering if that happens in Africa.
I know a guy who just got married to a woman. He's a photographer. I don't want to say his name, but he's Igbo, and he just got married to a woman. She had a child before him, and he loves her. He's posting her on his WhatsApp status all the time. I'm like, ugh, this guy, man, with the sucker stuff. But she had a child before him, and I hope they have more beautiful children. I have an uncle of mine, blood uncle. He's married. He got 3 wives now, but his second wife had a baby before him. So people in the modern sense are marrying women with children. I mean, it's not the go first move you want go to, but um, it happens. It's there. I don't know about Kenya and East Africa, but I know in Nigeria in particular, it's there. It's happening.
Yeah, in Kenya it happens too. The women with the children can get remarried. Usually, I don't know. It might be changing, but
Somebody gotta please mute them their mic.
yeah, okay. Usually, a woman with a child is usually put as maybe second or third wife to some guy, but usually, yeah, they also get married as first wife sometimes. A lot of the times, so probably. But you guys are not getting my point. I'm personally, I am not pro-abortion. I'm anti-abortion, but I also realize and I also appreciate the reasons why women will do an abortion. And usually, people, you paint women in this picture that, like, they just like doing abortions, and it's not really something they wish to do. In fact, if the society was okay with it, if the family is okay with it, and there's no pressure, it has been proven that they'll keep the baby. They want to keep the baby, but all this pressure makes them go to an abortion. So it's not. That's what I'm trying to say. That I know you're blaming the women, but sometimes this is a deeper societal issue than just the women themselves. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I disagree with that. I don't know. In America, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but in America, women aren't having these mindset of all these pressures. Like I said, they have ways to alleviate that pressures, either through government assistance, whatever type of, so many programs for single women and mothers of children. Like there's so many programs. Whether you're out on the street, you can find a bed for you and your babies that night, and it's really like in any city, damn near. Maybe if you're out in bumfuck, excuse my language, but if you're out in the rural areas, there maybe you can't find those resources, but they got resources for single mothers. They got them. They, like, I feel like they got the most, damn near. these women, and you see it, like you hear it in music, you hear it in culture, F them kids, we finna abort this baby, boy, girl, you better get rid of that baby. I hear it from women of my, especially younger, women, in just in the culture, the degenerate culture around, motherhood. And one, motherhood is seen as like a form of oppression, and pregnancy is like, a parasite in our bodies and things like that. That feminist kind of line of thinking, they definitely see it as, if I don't want this kid, I don't have to have this kid, and I don't have to be proactive. If we was messing around and I got pregnant and I decide I want to get an abortion, guess what? I'm gonna go get an abortion, and it is what it is. Whether I was taking contraceptives or not, whether I was being proactive with my womb or not, and like it really is just straight up F them kids. I'm gonna abort this baby. It may not be all the cases. I granted there's cases where women have, a lot of pressure from family, and whatever situations, but at the same time, you do have a large amount and growing amount of women who are simply just, I'm going to have the abortion because it's my right. My body, my choice is the main reason for abortion. And women will tell you this themselves in America. My body, my choice. I don't owe you an explanation. If I want to go get an abortion, I can go get that abortion. And so, yeah, like I said, I disagree with that notion in America, at least.
All right. If there's no other last thoughts here, we'll just close it out. I want to thank everyone who's on the panel tonight. Brother Bakari was here earlier. Who else was here earlier and left? Quite a few people I can't remember now. But I want to thank everyone who was here earlier. Thank everyone who's here now. Gas, what do you want to shout out this week?
Man, just shout out to the Black Pentagrammers and the whole KWAZ family, all of you guys. Tan and Yona, man, they're doing a great job. Tan got the series going with this mirror stuff, so it's real esoteric. Lever, I hope you can stop by and check out. We're on there on Friday, so I think you'll like it. But yeah, shout out to everybody.
Appreciate it. Real Black Gentleman, what do you want to shout out this week?
What do I want to shout out? I don't know. I just want to shout out, everyone, for, who spoke, and we didn't even get through the whole show, Everyone had a lot to say. This was very, very, heated. People were out here, being authentic, and I appreciate that. I always think that when we being, this medium, for what it's worth, I mean, we are all over the place, but I think it's so important that we constantly are, at least, and I mean, people can say it's just talk, but since we naturally aren't in the same place and we're around the world, it's always good to talk about how we see the world. I mean, I just want to say big up. I'm big up to that. And I'll give a shout down to whoever blocked the stream or did whatever. That's some host shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think that shit's authentic. I just think that's some op shit. I'm gonna yield on that.
I feel you on that. Lero, thanks for coming through. What do you want to shout out this week?
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a minute, since I've been able to join the panel and stuff. But Harsh Reality Podcast, we back tomorrow, after a long hiatus, we back. So excited for that. And also to, like, anybody looking for like an organizational home, I really got, and tuned in with some good Africans making some good endeavors. So if you want more information, I'll slide you my email, whatnot. I'm not on really social media like that. IG if you got Instagram, but yeah, that's all I really got.
Appreciate it. Erzuliism, what you got to shout out this week?
I want to say thanks to everybody. I'm learning from everybody, even though I get passionate about it, but the different thoughts are helping. I want to thank you for having this Shoot the Breeze every Saturday. So I thank Gaz, Tan, Yona, everybody. about Boana and all of that. I appreciate that. But one thing I want to say, please don't keep watching that video that they keep circulating of Tyree. I know it hurt. You saw it already. Don't keep watching it, especially because that attacks you without. I feel there's an energy in that that we shouldn't let inside of ourselves. It was a terrible thing that happened. You watched it. Move on. Do not keep watching it. Do not keep showing this to your babies and stuff like that. I think there's a programming with that. I can put my hands on it. But yo, let it. Don't keep watching that. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that. Brother Tezzy, do you have anything you'd like to shout out this week?
Yeah, actually, today I have there's a show we're having in Swahili Nation. It's about decolonization around 9 p.m. East African time. I don't know what time it is. It'll be in the United States. Uh, it's about 11 hours from now. So, but yeah, I hope you guys come and watch. You're talking about decolonization of the African mind. A lot of the stuff we've talked about here, maybe we may touch on it over there too, a little bit. Apart from the part about African scholars and all that, and the difference in perspective from maybe the African diaspora and the Africans. We'll touch on that too. So it'll be an interesting show for you guys to come. So that's the shout out.
All right. Thank you for that. Thanks for coming through.
Harsh. What time is the show tomorrow? 8?
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, 9 p.m. East African time. I don't know what time. It's around 11 hours from now. So
Okay, what's the name of your show?
Swahili Nation. Just go to Swahili Nation.
All right, Swahili Nation. Harsh reality. Your thing is at 8, right? PM.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
Yeah, we're at 8 p.m.
All right, cool.
Or 8:15 p.m. Tanzan, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yes, so yeah, thank you, Coco, and to my fellow pentagrammers. That's on Friday. We had a program yesterday that was good. I hope you can join us on the next one. Tuesday, Tuesdays I usually have a not last week, but I had one the one before that one. So yes, and yes, I know it's corny to shout out Shoot the Breeze, which I'm on it. So whatever, Bonahaguzuki, but yes, shout out to Shoot the Breeze as well, and thank you for having the platform. So yeah, and Tezi, I hope we can join you. Yeah, shout out to everyone, and yeah, good night.
All right, I appreciate it. Lastly but not leastly, Bwana Gaziki, what do you have to shout out?
Yes. So I have a few things to say. A shout out to everyone who was on the panel tonight with a vigorous conversation. Tan, I couldn't hear your voice tonight. You seemed like you was tired. I don't know why you so quiet. But I think that everyone gave a vigorous discussion tonight, and they brought it to the panel tonight, and I really appreciate the discussion. Erzuli, let me say that. Oh, email me because you say you would email me, and also there is a guy right now. His name is Barbecue. He is making a whole lot of noise in Haiti right now, but there's a lot of translation issues. I wish, well, I hope that could you please, let me put it like that, could you please do some research on this guy called Barbecue in Haiti right now? He's supposed to be this big so-called revolutionary leader. I want you to see if you could solicit some information on him for me, because a lot of his stuff is in Creole, and hopefully that you probably will be able to get more
He's a
information.
fake. He's a fake. But if you got any of those videos, send it to me and I could translate it for you. If you got any.
Okay. Yes. But I really wanted some help with that. Lastly, gas. I apologize, brother. I should have referenced you that information personally because I do have access to you, so you could have perused through it before I even mentioned the discussion tonight, and I will do that. I will do that, and even in going forward, any information that I receive, I'll forward that to you so you could have you could peruse through the information before I even bring up the topic. So I apologize for even bringing it up tonight before you would have had a look at it. So, but I appreciate everyone who would have come on the panel tonight. It was a very, like I say, it was a very vigorous discussion, and I hope that your brothers continue to support the channel. Big up Harsh Reality Podcast. I was waiting for him to come back. Lorenz State, big him up. He does an excellent job. If y'all have time tomorrow, check out his channel. But I appreciate y'all brothers, man. And until next week for everyone. Shout out.
Yes, indeed. That's the show tonight. Thanks to everyone who was on the panel. Thanks to everyone who was in the chat. Nama X, Harsh Reality Podcast, Sister Raw, Bakari, Forecast was out there. The Matron was out there. Thanks to all of you guys who tuned in. Bobby, right? I'm sure you were around somewhere. KW on 7. So thank you guys for tuning in. I should be back next week Saturday, and who knows, maybe I might drop in during the week. We'll see. All right, but until then, you guys be good. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.